And I bet when DeAndre Hopkins walks into that room, they're going to ask for his autograph. Man, like, this is DeAndre freaking Hopkins. He has been in his career an absolutely elite, like front of the line, top 5 wide receiver in the league for many, many years. Brings a lot of that with him, but ultimately doesn't have to be that guy. And I like that he's bringing the star power into this offense, into this room. I think he's going to help some of these young guys focus, can help them develop. And I think it's a really great addition as far as that's concerned. I mean, he's also obviously going to be a leader, you would think. I've seen that he's been pretty locked in on the sidelines during these games with the Titans, really trying to help bring Will Levis along in what is probably a pretty brutal, frustrating situation. And you know, he's going from 1-5 to 6-0. I think I really like the star power that DeAndre Hopkins is bringing.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Yeah, that's right, folks. The show is called Amateur Hour. I'm Ryan Scott Hall, and joining me today, let's try this out. We're gonna try something. HD Hop. HD Hop. No, it's not gonna work. That's fine. Just forget it. Scratch that. Joining me today is Dirkness.
DeAndre Subskins? Let these take a few swings here. See it sticks.
Like, I feel like that probably wasn't what you were going to go with, but you brought it down a notch to just be on my level. And thank you for matching my energy, Dirk, not knocking me out of the park.
I'm a team player.
Well, I mean, dude, the Chiefs are officially in their DeAndre Hopkins era. How you feeling about it? You woke up this morning many hours after the trade had been finalized.
Right.
You know, you've been nursing a respiratory infection, been down for the count. But when you woke up today and you had a bunch of notifications on your phone, what were you feeling? When the fog is cleared, how you feel about old DeAndre Hopkins there, Dirk?
Well, yeah, I was kind of pumped that we delayed it today. Otherwise, we would have recorded before the news. But we pushed this a day because I was feeling a little ill. Still am. But, you know, Chiefs had enough injuries, so I didn't want to, put Chiefs fans through amateur hour being today. So I had to push through it today. And yeah, but when I crawled out of bed around noon or so, it had been 9 hours since the news had broke. So I definitely missed the news cycle on that one. First thing I did was fire my sources for reporting over and over that the Chiefs were not trading for DeAndre Hopkins. Don't worry, those people are now living on the streets. They have nothing to do with me whatsoever anymore. No, so don't worry about that. Don't worry, those people are gone. And yeah, they're taken care of. But you know, it's exciting. I did not expect it. I expected them to make a move for a receiver. I have been adamant that DeAndre Hopkins is not the best fit. We will get into that. But, even if it, doesn't work, I still like it. I still think you had to make a move. You had to bring someone in. A 4th or 5th rounder is nothing as far as I'm concerned when you're chasing history. And all he's going to do at the very least is eat into snaps from Justin Watson and Sky Moore, who aren't producing anything and are actively negatively producing. You're not really losing anything by bringing them in. It's basically no risk as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, so I joined the breaking news team this morning from the parking lot outside of my school. And one of the things that I think dawned on me while having this conversation is that DeAndre Hopkins is a fit for the Chiefs in a lot of different ways. And some of them are debatable, some of them are not. The first fit, I think, as far as Hopkins is concerned, He's a great fit as far as like the money and the trade compensation. All that stuff worked out. The Chiefs get to give up a day 3 pick, even if he reaches all the incentives or whatever and accelerates the pick. It's still a day 3 pick. That's perfect for them.
And in the grand scheme, there's no difference between a 4th and 5th rounder. I think 1st, 2nd, and 3rd rounders all have their own value. 4th or 7th rounder, as far as I'm concerned, basically all the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, teams are just prioritizing guys based on their own evaluations, and some players, that are getting taken in some of those spots are not even on other people's boards, whatever. All that is to say, he really fit the Chiefs' criteria for trading for a receiver. And in the only way that he didn't is the fact that he doesn't necessarily know the Chiefs' offense. I've heard that the Bill O'Brien offense has a lot of like option routes in it, so Hop is at least familiar with, some of the movement and stuff, and he is kind of a freelancer by nature, according to James Palmer, who covered him in Houston really from the time he was a rookie.
And kicked you off the breaking news team. They kicked you off there and brought in James Palmer. I think most people thought it was an upgrade. I was throwing trash at my TV. Don't worry, Ryan. I had your back. I thought it was a huge downgrade. I didn't like the decision.
Thanks for heckling him. I literally had to go back to the classroom, regardless. But he had some good stuff in there on Hopkins, some interesting, kind of insider things, I guess. I'll say this. I feel like I'm noticing a trend about DeAndre Hopkins. As far as this move is concerned, I'm sensing like a theme. And to me, it's all about power. It's all about power, Dirk. And here I got a few categories that I think will back up this like whatever thesis.
Like Mustafa type power? Mustafa?
Who's...
Like flex in the mirror?
There's a lot of different types of power. Let's give it to my list. I'll show you.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Malik Mustafa. Thanks for the great photographs of your physique so that we could, in fact, cook you online. And thanks for also stepping up and saying, not gonna lie, I am getting, that was great.
That's the way to handle all things in life. If things are going like that, just laugh with it. And then it's like, okay, yeah, he's in on it. It's funny. And really, the best part was that he was fucking thumping our dudes all day long. Like, he had like 5 hard hits out there. And that's what made it all the better for us in the end, is because he was the one delivering those blows. And then we kind of got the final blow. So it wasn't like he like totally embarrassed himself out there. He just had one bad play out there.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, he's a rookie. Have some humility, which he did. Handled it perfectly. Great job all around. Great job all around for Malik Mustafa. But here's my bullet points about power, Dirk. We're going to start with the star power. DeAndre Hopkins is a very recognizable name. And the Chiefs have largely, this season, they kind of signed up for like a young group of receivers. And I bet when DeAndre Hopkins walks into that room, they're going to ask for his autograph. Man, like, this is DeAndre freaking Hopkins. He has been in his career an absolutely elite, like front of the line, top 5 wide receiver in the league for many, many years. Brings a lot of that with him, but ultimately doesn't have to be that guy. And I like that he's bringing the star power into this offense, into this room. I think he's going to help some of these young guys focus, can help them develop. And I think it's a really great addition as far as that's concerned. He's also obviously going to be a leader, you would think. I've seen that he's been pretty locked in on the sidelines during these games with the Titans, really trying to help bring Will Levis along in what is probably a pretty brutal, frustrating situation. He's going from 1-5 to 6-0. I think I really like the star power that DeAndre Hopkins is bringing. But we also got his actual like size and style. I'm talking about physical power. Okay? He's going to be a great blocker. All right? He's going to be a great blocker. I'm really excited to see DeAndre Hopkins out there lead blocking on the edge, taking the MVS spot for that, right?
The Chiefs have gone from the most prolific offense in NFL history to asking former All-Pro receivers to be good blockers. That is the swing that we have seen in the trajectory of the Mahomes era Chiefs.
It's fantastic. But he's always been a physical receiver. The Chiefs really seem like they're just that's who they are now. They've decided we are a power offense. We're going to wear you down. We're going to run the ball a lot. I saw that they had the most runs between the tackles in a game since 2016 in that game against the Niners. So, I mean, they are playing power football. And I think that DeAndre Hopkins, the way that he wins with his body, apparently his contested catch rate is about 25% of his targets are contested. And the Chiefs are usually around like 5%. Mahomes just doesn't throw those balls. But I think that he, because of his size, his ability to kind of power people out, I'm also thinking of physical power from DeAndre Hopkins.
I like it. Yeah. And I've got stats on those tight window throws. But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are who they are now. I mean, they're a physical, run first team, stop the run on defense. They're not really shying away from who they are at this point. And yeah, I do kind of like that. I caught you on the breaking news team kind of bringing that up. And I like that point. I like how he does fit in with the physical nature, bringing that to the wide receiver room. Because I mean, we start out with, Xavier Worthy, who's 160 pounds, and we kind of see like the detriments of that this week with him falling down and leading to an interception. We have Hollywood Brown, who's probably 190 pounds or something. I don't know, but a couple of tiny guys. And yeah, it is kind of funny that we have now transitioned to this physical team, but it kind of goes along with the nature of these silly little Chiefs that we're seeing here in 2024 that, they are not what they used to be, but they are, the best team in the NFL right now. And they are the 2-time defending champs, and they are adding to that now. So it's kind of wild to see how they've transitioned along the way, both, long-term and short-term. But yeah, it is cool to see like a physical nature like that, a beast in the receiver room.
I even got one more bullet point, Dirk, because I think this gives the scheme some power, right? Because we're talking about, again, a former all-pro wide receiver who many coaches throughout his time in the NFL have talked about him, like, as far as the sideline, the body control, the catch radius, like, he's just different, right? This is a lot of the things that James Palmer was talking about, how, like, you just can throw to this guy and feel very, very comfortable. And they've got 11 games to figure that out. But I think that this move, having a DeAndre Hopkins, it softens the blow of I would say, the insecurity of trying to lean specifically on Juju. I think that you've got two different guys that can do, some of the Rashee Rice stuff. They may not, either of them, be big time run after the catch guys at this stage in their careers, but at least we've got somebody to go to on third down other than Travis Kelce, right? Like, and ultimately in some of the situational football stuff, those third downs in the red zone, moving the chains, like I think that it allows Andy to now call plays pretty confidently and be aggressive on fourth downs, regardless of the situations, because he has someone like DeAndre Hopkins to add to that room and say, you know what, this is a guy that we can count on. Like, this is a player that at 32 years old, the games that he's played and the style of play that he brings, like, this is a dude that can help them scheme up some things and be, I think, a little bit more aggressive, even though they are a physical team. They got to be, aggressive kind of in their own way. It may not be exactly the aggressive that we want, but I think that they can be aggressive because they've, brought in this guy that they trust.
And yeah, just to kind of add to that point, a couple of reports that I saw today, Schrager said they brought Hopkins in to be an inside target and red zone guy, was the direct quote. So, yeah, I can definitely see that. It's just someone that they trust in the red zone, a bigger body, just something else that they can do in the red zone where they've struggled so far this year. They picked up here against San Francisco. And then James Palmer also said after Juju's injury, it pushed for a move, which was something we kind of, last week we didn't know that he was even injured. So we kind of talked about, like, they're going to wait and see what Juju provides after he has that huge game against New Orleans, and kind of see where they're at in these few weeks before the trade deadline and see what happens. Well, luckily for, people who wanted to add to this room, we see the fear of relying on Juju pop up and that he gets hurt, randomly. When did he even get hurt? Was it in the game or was it practice?
24 hours after our episode aired, he popped up on the injury report on Thursday about a hamstring. And Andy on Friday said he's going to play. We're just kind of being precautionary with him right now. Unless something, is worse or whatever, like he's fine. We're going to be fine.
I totally forgot that he even played in the game. He did the Sammy Watkins 3-snap special.
Yeah.
Where Sammy Watkins like, I'm going to give this hammy the old college tryout here and then, go out there for 3 snaps and like, well, no, that's it for me, guys. We've seen that a few times from Sammy Watkins in his career. So, I totally forgot that. And now he's being ruled out very early in the week. So, yeah, that's going to be a multi-week injury, you would think. And so I think that really added to the need to add to that room. So interesting to see how that all unfolded. I'm curious to know if they, if Juju just plays and, puts up 50 yards or something and the hamstring never happens, if they still make the trade. I don't think we'll ever really know, but Palmer at least said that after the injury, that pushed for the move.
And we'll talk about after this break. Let's take a little breather, but I want to get to how this is going to affect maybe some of the other players in that wide receiver room, specifically Xavier Worthy.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone in any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts with you. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/AHPKC. That's mintmobile.com/AHPKC. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/AHPKC. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Well, folks, around here at KCSN, we always talk about the good stuff. And fortunately for Dirk and myself, our partners on this show, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City, they're like really at the core of the good stuff that KCSN likes to do. So if you want to partner with us, you want to try to support Amateur Hour or KC Sports Network, and you want to try to make a big impact in your community right here in Kansas City, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City need sponsors for their sports teams and leagues. You can help out local kids while also promoting your business throughout the metro. If you're interested, just shoot an email to giving@helpkckids.org. That's giving@helpkckids.org for more information.
If you find yourself coaching from the couch during the games, you should consider coaching from the sidelines as a volunteer with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City. Learn more at helpkckids.org.
Dirk, I do want to get to how this Hopkins trade is going to affect the receiver room. But first, I know you got some stats on like the tight window throws for Mahomes. That can kind of help us to maybe put a cap on like how he fits in this offense.
Yeah, so I mean, we have talked a lot about, what type of receivers the Chiefs prioritize. They like to throw to the open guys, and whether that's an Andy or a Mahomes thing, it's kind of hard to separate. And the reason that I was so adamant that they wouldn't, bring Hopkins in is because Hopkins is seen as not really like a separator. He didn't have like top end speed, but what he was, in his prime, he was probably the best contested catch guy, in the NFL. James Palmer was on here earlier. He's talking about his catch radius is like goes far beyond every single other receiver in the league. Like he has it goes like a yard or two farther than everybody else. So it's hard for cornerbacks because he's catching balls that other guys can't even get to. That's the strength of DeAndre Hopkins' game.
The person that said that, he was quoting Bill Belichick. He was talking about when they like the Patriots in the run up to one of those playoff games that they played against Bill O'Brien's Texans. Belichick was talking about how Hopkins, his catch radius is like 2 feet in any direction bigger than other receivers. And he's like, it makes it really hard on corners because they just can't cover the same type of ground, and most other receivers can't either. He's just very, very unique in that way.
So then you look at the Chiefs' offense. So why do we keep saying this like they don't like to do that? Well, there's a stat that called an aggressiveness. This is from Next Gen Stats. It's an aggressiveness stats which tracks tight window throws. It tracks the amount of passing attempts a quarterback makes that are into tight coverage where there is a defender within 1 yard or less of the receiver at the time of completion or incompletion. So a defender within 1 yard of the receiver. Now,
is this specifically quarterback stat, or do they like track it for receptions too, like on the receiver end of it?
I heard them drop that stat for Hopkins that 25% of his catches were contested catches. I did not find that. It might be on the same page, but I didn't necessarily look for that. I have some other separation for Hopkins.
That might be the ass stat that's now going around. It's not an amateur scouting service. They're ripping off the ASS here on AHBKC, but it's average separation score is that new ass metric.
I love a good ass metric. Oh, man. I love a good ass metric. All right. So Mahomes' ranking in this tight window throw percentage this season, dead last of every quarterback. 2023, dead last of every quarterback. 2022, third to last of every quarterback. 2021, dead last by a lot. 2020, third to last. 2019, third to last. 2018, fourth to last. So this is out of, quarterbacks that had like 150 attempts on the season, I think. So it's mostly like 45 quarterbacks. And Mahomes is almost always dead last. But don't think this is a bad thing. I mean, this just means he's good at identifying the receiver who's open and then throwing it to him. So it's good identifying of the coverage. It's good scheme, which comes from Andy Reid. And, the quarterbacks, I looked at 2023. So the quarterbacks that were, at the top of this list, throwing into tight windows nonstop. The top of the list in 2023, Kenny Pickett, Bailey Zappi, Joe Flacco, a true gunslinger, Zach Wilson, and Mac Jones. Those are the top 5 quarterbacks in throwing into tight window coverage because they're throwing bad balls. Mahomes doesn't throw bad balls. He throws to open receivers. So it's kind of a weird mix that they prefer receivers, and even look at who they're targeting. Hollywood Brown, a quick guy who's getting open. Xavier Worthy, obviously a fast guy. He's always getting open. You're seeing him open and you're throwing to him open. It's not like DeAndre Hopkins where he has a guy on him, but you have to throw it to him anyways. Like there's a trust level there. So I'm not sure what it's going to look like because this is the reason I was so adamant it's going to happen, because it doesn't seem like a fit, like Hopkins' style of play into their style of offense and Mahomes' preference of who he's throwing the ball to. It's just like they're complete opposites. So I'm not sure if they kind of bend the offense and just start giving Hopkins a chance at this. I mean, another way of looking at this isn't the traditional type of offense that you see from Andy Reid, but neither is the offense that we're seeing here so far in 2024. Like, this isn't the, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes type offense. Obviously, they're adjusting it on the fly. So maybe they're going to try and, let's try something new here and, start maybe throwing some balls up to Hopkins, some trust balls, seeing if he can come down with them down the sideline, some back shoulder stuff like that. So I think it is a weird juxtaposition between the style of play that DeAndre Hopkins plays and what we've seen from the Chiefs throughout Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid's career here.
It is an odd fit in some ways. I do not disagree at all. And I think my fear, if you would have asked me maybe a few days ago, and definitely before Juju got hurt, like if Hopkins is a realistic option for this team, and I would have just been like, people forget it. It doesn't make sense. He's 32 years old. He still probably deals with some of these injuries. He ended up choosing the Titans over the Chiefs. We were pursuing him, I believe, but he wanted, more money or whatever and went to Tennessee, a team that wasn't going to be able to compete with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Schrager said today that the Chiefs took a long look at him in free agency, which I thought was interesting because they didn't. This was something would have been. When was he a free agent? Last year, or was this when he went to Tennessee like 3 years ago?
Oh, has he been in Tennessee that long? I thought this was year 2 in Tennessee.
Okay, something like that. But I thought it was interesting that it wasn't just like this is the only guy in the market, so let's go get him. Like they had actually thought of pursuing him before.
Yeah, no, it would have been they're looking at Hopkins. before last season. Thinking about, trying to add somebody. I think you're right that him not being known specifically as like a big time separation guy, it's a knock on him in terms of like how he fits in this offense. But some arguments for DeAndre Hopkins. Number one, he's an incredible route runner, right? Like he's able to create separation because of his routes, because of the physical nature with which he plays the game. And if we're talking about some of those contested catches, you said that metric for quarterbacks was about a defender being within like a yard of where the ball is essentially placed, right? Like at the catch point, or they're within a yard of the receiver. Okay. So, that really doesn't even feel that tight. That's a defender within 3 feet of the player. That's still plenty of room for them to maneuver. And like Hopkins can run a slant and not have a defender within a yard of him, right? Like some of the stuff that Rasheed was doing, we can put the ball in Hop's hands even at 32 years old and feel pretty confident. We can also, even though he is this contested catch receiver, his career drop rate on Lord knows how many targets and catches and everything else, it's like 1.5%. It's nothing. He drops one pass for every 100 times he gets thrown at, right? Like he is so trustworthy throughout his career that like he feels like the exception. Like the Chiefs saw Hopkins and said, there are a lot of guys that play like this that would not fit with our team. This dude is different. That is how I feel. That's the way that I do it. Now, is he going to be some like huge splash player for the Chiefs? I don't think so, but I don't know that he needs to be. What is really interesting about the way that he fits, I think when I start imagining Xavier Worthy, how this affects him, I think he might be the biggest winner of anybody from this trade. Because we saw in this game against the Niners that the Chiefs suddenly decided like, all right, we got to see what it looks like with Worthy, right? And especially after Juju went down, it's like, he's going to be the volume guy, and let's see what this looks like. And it didn't look all that great, right? He physically, we all knew that was always going to be kind of an issue. But, it just kind of seems like, at least right now, it doesn't mean that he can never do it. But like, let's even think about the way that he was comped coming out. It was Deshaun Jackson, right? I actually did a little looking at Deshaun Jackson. His first 11 years in the league, like all the way through the 2 years he spent in Tampa, I think he got paid 4 or 5 more years after that. But like the 11 years where Deshaun Jackson was a good football player, he's up till he's 32 years old. He overall is a great piece, but he's just simply not a volume guy. Highest number of receptions he had in any of those seasons was only 62. He averaged about 53 catches for just over 800 yards and 5 touchdowns a year. But if you look at this guy, when you think about like the way that the Chiefs were using Rashee Rice or the way that they can use DeAndre Hopkins, like Worthy is just not that dude. Deshaun Jackson's lowest yards per catch of any season in that 11-year stretch was 13.4, right? Like that is, and that's when we were thinking about the mid-range, whatever the mid-range jumper of throws, what do we call it? Intermediate. There we go. It just came to me. Thank you. That's like an intermediate receiver. He did have a season, if you can believe this, of 22.5 yards per catch. He had 1,056 yards on 47 receptions. That was in year 3 for Deshaun Jackson. But this is a guy that over those first 11 years, he averaged 17.5 yards per catch. Like he's a big chunk. He's an explosive player. And that's what Worthy is too. That's how everybody saw him, including Andy. And so trying to have him be a huge focal point of your offense is not great. And that's why him being the third, behind a Rashee Rice and a Hollywood Brown, the way it was drawn up, my God, he was going to be so dangerous because he didn't have to be leaned on. And so I think that having Hopkins and eventually if Juju comes back, it's really, really good news for Xavier Worthy, who can just start to do the things that he's good at instead of being asked to do a whole bunch of other stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. And we talk about, we're kind of comparing this year to last year. And it's like, well, Rashee Rice kind of stepped forward and kind of, became this volume type of receiver because you need the ball to go somewhere. But Rashee Rice is kind of like this 8 catch for 70-yard type of guy. Like that could be like a Rashee Rice game, whereas Xavier Worthy's going to be more like a 3 catch for 80-yard kind of guy. Like it's just different type of receivers. So I think it's another interesting, like the volume thing you guys were talking about this morning on the breaking news thing was kind of interesting because the Chiefs just need the ball to go somewhere right now. And they're kind of just like, right now they're just kind of feeding it to Kareem Hunt because they don't really have anyone else to like push the ball to. Like, what are you going to do? Throw it to Travis Kelce 12 times? Like, you don't want him to wear down over it. Xavier Worthy's not a volume guy. Juju suddenly goes out. Like, you need the ball to go somewhere. They're almost just like handing the Kareem the ball because they don't know what else to do. So I looked at Mahomes' just pass attempts in his career because I thought, well, it's like, man, they are just not, they're not going through Mahomes right now. They are just feeding the run game. You talked about the most runs, up the middle that they've had since 2016 or whatever. Fewest pass attempts in Mahomes' career in games. So far this year, he's had the 4th fewest in a game, 8th fewest, 11th fewest, and 15th fewest of his career. His attempts per game over his career, starting in 2018, this is how many attempts per game he averaged. 36, 35, 39, 39, 38, 37. This year's all the way down to 31. So there's just like, what are they doing with the ball? And they're just kind of like, they're becoming a running team like out of necessity because they don't have like enough targets to go around. So, Hopkins just, at the very least, he puts a guy out there where you can feel comfortable throwing on the ball, whereas Justin Watson's kind of out there just running routes, just getting exercise out there and not getting targets whatsoever. The ball's got to go somewhere. Like, somebody has to gain yards on these plays, and the Chiefs just don't have enough bodies right now. And Rashee could kind of step into that role and kind of fulfill it throughout the year as it went on last year. Worthy can't really do that this year, so they're just like, they need someone to be able to just go out there and catch a football and gain 7 yards.
They definitely do. By the way, did you catch Tom Brady's review of Jay Watt? He's talking about Justin Watson. Oh, yeah, Jay Watt. Jay Watt had him down in Tampa for a year. Just a really good guy. Like, what? An A+ review from Tom Brady. Just a really good guy. Like, oh, anything about being a wide receiver? He was a really great guy. But Tom, do you remember anything about the way that he played on special teams? He went to Penn. Nothing about the football player. Let me say this. I think that this Chiefs offense, what is so preposterous to me, you talked about the attempts for Patrick Mahomes, how low they are in games in his career, how the average number of attempts. He also has, I believe, his 2 lowest yardage totals in any single game of his career this season, and they won both of them. The Chiefs are 6-0. Patrick Mahomes has thrown more interceptions than touchdowns. Josh Allen has no interceptions. Lamar Jackson just put up 45 fantasy points through 5 touchdowns. He's playing some of the best football of his career to start a season. And yet the Chiefs have a 2-game lead on every single team in the AFC. And on top of it, somehow, at least from what I'm hearing, Patrick Mahomes is still the front runner for NFL MVP. Is he the betting favorite right now with these statistics?
He was until Lamar's Monday night game.
Okay.
But yeah, Lamar is actually a huge favorite. It's going to be a really weird situation because Lamar was like not high in MVP rankings, like Vegas odds at all before the year, because they don't want to give him a 3rd MVP before like he accomplishes something in January. The problem with that is that he's been far and away the best player in the 2024 season. So it's going to get to a point where it's like, we don't want to give it to him, but like he's going to be like good enough. Well, so far he's been good enough. Like it's like you have to give it to him. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how that plays out in the end.
Especially so what you're telling me is that Chris Jones is actually going to win NFL MVP, not just Defensive Player of the Year. They're going to go off the grid, and this year it's 95.
What do you do if they go undefeated? Like, are you not going to give the MVP to someone on the undefeated team? Does it go to Reid Humphrey? Does he get MVP? Harrison Butker or something, like Steve Spagnuolo gets in NFL MVP. Like it's kind of wild. I got two closing thoughts on the Hopkins stuff, and then let's get to the game, I think. One is just, I'm a big believer in adding hungry veterans who have never won anything, like these teams that win a lot. I think it's very important to constantly bring in new blood, so there's no like complacency, like bringing in guys like Jerick McKinnon, like he just wanted to win more than anything. I think Drew Tranquill added a lot. I think he was desperate to win, and he just kind of steps up and becomes a leader. Like these guys who have been, around the league and haven't won anything, and to come to Kansas City and like get a chance to win, I think that attitude, bringing that into the locker room, is extremely important. And now it's suddenly like, man, we want to win for Donovan Smith. Like we want to win for these guys who haven't experienced winning before. I've got 3 rings sitting at home, but these guys haven't won yet. I want to win for them. I think that attitude is kind of infectious. I think that's important to bring in for teams that have won a lot, like starting to build something like the Chiefs are clearly doing.
I do think that another really interesting point that looks like what the Chiefs are doing here with D-Hop, they've broken the mold, right? Like they typically are not reaching for older players. They, generally speaking, when they have brought in some of these like 1 year or trade deadline rentals, I mean, I can't even remember how late in the season it was that we got Suggs, but I think he was like getting waived in like week 15 or something. The Ravens were just letting him go. And the Chiefs lucked out there. But, this is not, in terms of the skill positions and stuff, like the Chiefs go young and they don't tend to target somebody like DeAndre Hopkins. We talked about how he's kind of the exception also in just his style of play being different too. But I think that this is showing another kind of like evolution for the Chiefs that makes them have some of these parallels to the Patriots. I can't remember. I want to say maybe it was James Palmer, but he was talking about how like they're in that mode where like players leave and they do poorly somewhere else and they come back. That was a hallmark of these Patriots dynasties. They're, everybody is bought in. The team is evolving into this run team, and everybody's just like, cool, whatever's going to help us win. You don't have all these egos and stuff, and everybody's just on board. And ultimately it leads to, for me, it makes me think about like this game against the Niners, right? Like I look at this Chiefs team and my God, man, Kareem Hunt was like easily the best player on the field, I think, for the Chiefs for most of this game. And he averaged 3.5 yards per carry. Mahomes is out here. The Chiefs score 4 touchdowns on offense in this game, and Mahomes didn't throw one. He had 2 picks on the day. Like, it's just kind of ugly, man. Noah Gray leads you in receiving, and the next closest receiver has a third as many yards as Noah Gray does, and you still score 4 touchdowns. Like, I don't even know how they're doing it right now. I don't know what the special sauce is. People keep saying they know how to win, or, they're in their championship era. But my God, man, this team it's a lot to watch. I can't figure them out.
I mean, that seemed to be like the prevailing thought. Like nobody knows how the Chiefs scored 28 points with the receivers 1, 2, and 3 out, the running back 1 out, while Mahomes endures the greatest statistical slump of his career. When I think the answer is staring everybody straight in the face, flexing his mustache at you, it's Andrew Reid. This game was like the ultimate test of Andy Reid versus Kyle Shanahan with all their weapons out. Both teams, without their top 3 receiving options and their running back 1 options, it was like, let's see whose system truly works better, shall we? Andy's correctly identified his number 1 weapon on his offense right now, which we told you weeks ago was Kareem Hunt. And the Chiefs are perfectly happy to hand the ball off to Kareem and allow the KCI, the Kansas City interior offensive line, to go to work, all of which wraps up with something all of the national shows are telling you this week that we've been telling you for a few weeks. The Chiefs are a defensive, physical, run the ball, stop the run team right now. And they rode the style of play to a championship last year out of necessity, but they didn't really necessarily want to. They just had to. And it took all season to finally embrace it. And I think this year you're seeing, they didn't necessarily want to this year either, but they, when the shit hits the fan and these receivers get hurt, the team was fully ready to embrace it. You're seeing a team that's comfortable in this style of play. They're leaning into it, and they're embracing it, and they're winning with it. And I think that all kind of points back to Andy Reid, who has just got these guys rallying like, look, guys, I know people are going to say it's ugly. We're going to come out. I see a tweet after, they're 6-0. They just went on the road against the team they just beat in the Super Bowl. And it's like, what's the solution to the Chiefs offense? I see this tweet from, I think it's Marcus Mosher. I think as a national guy, I'm not sure who he is for sure, but it's like the solution, like they used this style to win a Super Bowl last year. They're 6-0 this year. They just beat the Vegas, NFC number 1 team on the road by 10 points with ease. And they're out here talking about solutions for the team. Like, what? We need a solution? It's just like, but you have to embrace it. You have to lean into it. And people can call it ugly all they want, while the Chiefs just waltz their way to victories with Mahomes, the best player many of us have ever seen, not even playing great. And I think it's a testament to Andy Reid and how he gets everybody to just buy into this new style of play. And it's mind blowing how much they've evolved, transformed from just 2 years ago. Like everything that we're saying, if you just told us 2 or 3 years ago, like what we're seeing, it would seem impossible. Like we wouldn't. There's no way that I'm going to read you Patrick Mahomes' stats, and here's what they are, and yet here's our record, and here's how we're winning. Like what? That's not possible, and yet they're out here doing it. It's insane.
So here are some things the offense is actually good at. Okay, because Dirk, I know you're saying like people are going to say it's not sustainable or it's ugly. I'm people. I am people. I think it's ugly. And it's scary to me because it doesn't seem like they can keep getting away with this. I look at it and I say, you don't have enough, even with Andy and Patrick. Like, I don't think you have enough. There's something that's missing in this offense. But here's what they're good at. They have the second fewest plays that go for no gain or a loss. Okay? They just get positive yards. I mean, let's think about it, Dirk. 3.5 yards per carry. That's what Kareem was averaging on Sunday. You know what 3.5 yards per carry is?
A first down.
Yeah. It's 3.5 yards in a cloud of dust. You hand it off 3 times, you average 3.5 yards per carry, you get a first down. And I know that no one is liking the fact that you get past the sticks by a half a yard on 3 handoffs. But if you can do it, like if you can pull it off, if you can do that consistently, if you cannot make the mistakes and shoot yourself in your foot and have the negative plays, like you can be unstoppable on offense, just averaging 3.5 yards a carry. Like, I'm also looking at the fact that they have the 4th lowest punt percentage. They are 7th in scoring drive percentage. They are 4th in positive EPA percent. I mean, this team on offense, they're efficient, right? If nothing else, they have some things that they are good at. I do wonder, Dirk, if you feel the same way that I do. You've been keeping track of all the things that the Chiefs have ended, killed. I don't know exactly what the terminology is, but I think it's ended.
Broken.
Okay. I think that you can add the Niners to the list of things that the Chiefs have broken. I'm also tempted to preemptively add the Bucs as if they crumbled under the pressure of playing the Chiefs in a couple weeks, and that's why everybody got hurt. But I really would say that like it's very real. I heard people that have nothing to do with the Chiefs, no rooting interest whatsoever, saying, I think this is the end of that Niners iteration because you don't have Ayuk for the rest of the year, but you paid him. And so going forward, like after this season is over, Debo's probably not on the team anymore, right? Maybe McCaffrey's not on the team anymore. Like that iteration, the way that we broke the Bills and they had to completely redesign everything, that is what is coming down this offseason for the Niners. And so they will never again get to see Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and Brock Purdy. It's done. It's over with. And that team, like the psyche of continuing to lose to the Chiefs in all these different ways, and you talk about the Andy Reid and Shanahan, and Shanahan's taking over the league, and everybody's praising him. You can't beat the Chiefs, man. You can't do it. And that has got to feel awful. We broke the Niners.
I mean, not to mention Trent Williams is like 38, and Rod Warner is out here trotting along trying to tackle Mahomes and can't quite catch up to him. He's the second best inside linebacker in the game, no question. One of my favorite trolls I've ever done during a game. That was, man. I was
really rode the fraud Warner.
Breaking the Bolton Brainers' brains. I was breaking them brains. That was, oh man, I had so much fun doing that. And it just kept happening. You kept seeing like bad Warner plays and good Bolton plays. It just kept building upon itself.
You carried the bit well, because oh my God, did you see that play by Fred Warner? Oh wait, it was Nick Bolton. Oh wait. I loved it personally as a Nick Bolton fan. It was thoroughly enjoyable. Do you want to talk about the 3rd and 1 throw plus fake punt sequence? Not exactly my favorite. Anything to gripe about there? I mean, it can't be all rainbows, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. The fake punt. I like the fake punt. Obviously, everybody likes a fake punt when it works. Nobody likes a fake punt when it doesn't work. But to do it if the defense was still out there, I still haven't seen the play really. But if the 49ers defense was just sitting out there, yes, it's obviously a dumb play. And it should have been scraped. But let me just say, this type of stuff that people throw their arms up about, the Chiefs, they need to have an element of fun. I think they're playing a boring style of football, but they need to add some fun in there. Let's put Carson Wentz in there in a 3-point stance. Let's fake a punt. Let's troll the defending NFC champions in the fourth quarter of a 1-score game with a play that beat them in the Super Bowl. People are like, what the hell was that? It didn't work. Well, that play did work in a Super Bowl 3 different times, so maybe that's why they're calling it, because it has had some success. But I do think, people are asking why they do this stuff, but I do think it's measured, and I do think it's important, because of the Chiefs embracing a boring style of play. Remember Mahomes in the preseason saying he wanted to get back to having fun? I think it is important to keep the team having fun, and I think these types of plays do kind of lend to that. Now, you might push back on the fake punt, and that's kind of the least of my worries. I think the fun stuff's putting Wentz out there and calling corn dog against the 49ers. I think that is fun. But doing all this, while putting up 28 against a very talented offense or very talented defense, all the top weapons out, I think it's important to keep things fun, and I think it's measured from Andy Reid.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do think that they got to keep it loose. I'm honestly kind of surprised that you don't think 3.5 yards per carry is fun, but
I do. But Patrick Mahomes, the greatest quarterback in NFL history, might not think it's too fun.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and I mean, God, it's got to be like they got to have whiplash from going from what they thought this offense was going to look like to, Worthy's gone. A few weeks later, Rice is gone, and now, or sorry, not Worthy, but Brown's gone, and then a few weeks later, Rice is gone, and suddenly you're just like, who are we? I mean, having DeAndre Hopkins is a nice addition, but it's definitely not what they planned. A couple things that I think kind of flipped in this game that maybe were talking points going into it. Suddenly the Chiefs' red zone offense is good again. Luck of the draw, I guess, or KCI, or Dirk was right. I mean,
well, I mean, they're just gonna figure it out, and this kind of goes back to your sustainable thing. One thing we kind of touched on, but how much different do people look at this game if Mahomes just takes 2 revolutions off the football and completes the pass to Xavier Worthy for a 75-yard touchdown? How much differently are we looking at this game if that happens? And the follow-up to that is there any chance that you think he doesn't complete that pass in the playoffs? Mahomes and Andy will have this shit figured out come January. I didn't know if they'd have it figured out by, this week against San Francisco, but they will have this shit figured out by January. I guarantee it, because that's all we've ever seen is them have this shit figured out. So this type of stuff, it's a boring type of offense, 3.5 yards and blah, blah, blah. If you put all of that with a 75-yard Xavier Worthy touchdown on top of it, okay, now that completely changes the perception of that game. Everyone's like, wow, look at this. The high-flying Chiefs are back, and they can run the ball, and they got a defense and all this. And I know they didn't complete it, so you can't say it. But what I am saying is that in January, they will figure it out. And that's kind of the point of the red zone, too. I don't remember red zone stuff ever being a problem come playoff time, save for one play against the Cincinnati Bengals before halftime, that a play that should not be mentioned. But aside from that, Andy has the stuff figured out come January, and they'll be good in the red zone.
Something that they did figure out on defense was how to turn Brock Purdy over. The Chiefs finally looking good in the turnover battle in this game against the Niners. Brock Purdy threw interceptions at the Kansas City 34, the Kansas City 31, and in the Kansas City end zone. The defense just stepping up, making plays, helping the Chiefs navigate, another couple interceptions from Patrick Mahomes. But boy, the defense was just downright dominant. I mean, this team is quite literally grinding out games, but ultimately they end up winning this one pretty comfortably. I am interested, Dirk, when we think about this defense. Something really big happens in this game with the injury to our boy, Jaylen Watson. You mentioned a potential kind of amateur hour curse because we keep talking him up.
Well, we talked about that specifically. We said the words like it would be terrible if we were to lose Jaylen Watson to injury. But we discussed that, which we can never discuss. We can never discuss a possible injury again ever. We can't do it. But yeah, that was heartbreaking.
I've been thinking about where to go from here. I've even had a few people reach out to me. Hey, do you think the Chiefs are going to trade for a corner? I doubt there's a corner trade coming. I have no idea what the finances look like. Regardless, I would imagine that they probably have somebody that they like on the practice squad, and whether that's an Echo Boydo, or a Nick Jones, or some person that they drafted or brought in through free agency. There's probably a body. To me, you have to first look at Joshua Williams because, Jaylen Watson and Joshua Williams have been interchangeable in many ways throughout their careers so far. It's those two guys battling for one job. And when one or the other has been hurt, his counterpart is the guy that's on the field. And so to me, they have been two halves of one whole. And so I'm just imagining it's got to be Joshua Williams. I don't know if the Chiefs see it that way, but I think that if you decide that, how you're going to play defense for the rest of this year is that your outside corners are Trent McDuffie and Najee Johnson, I worry a little bit. I worry. And maybe I shouldn't. I've got Steve Spagnuolo. I still have a tremendous amount of talent on this defense. And they like things about Najee Johnson, despite my fears and frustrations. And so I don't know, maybe there's just a trust factor there that Joshua Williams hasn't quite earned for some reason. I don't really know if they're trying to motivate him, what's happening here. He's obviously playing special teams, but gosh, I look at the difference between he and Najee Johnson. Najee Johnson is playing defense for the Chiefs for the first time in his career. And he's still playing in many, I think, ways, pretty limited snaps, to the point where I would almost venture to say that Joshua Williams has played more snaps in the playoffs than Najee Johnson has played in the regular season to this point in their careers. Because Josh has played a lot over the last few years and Najee hasn't. I don't know. It seems like even though they've been trying to somehow, some way get Joshua Williams hey, bud, it's time to go. You got to play. I'm hoping that that's kind of where they go for right now. I trust him a lot more than Najee Johnson, but I still don't even have a whole lot of trust in Joshua Williams. We talked about it last week, man. This is not a great look for this Chiefs defense. What are you expecting here over these next couple of games while they try to adjust?
It is funny because, last year we kept asking for them to not play Josh Williams, and now this year we keep asking him for them to play Josh Williams. And they're kind of going against our wishes both times. But yeah, it seemed like this week, I think they were having McDuffie chase Ayuk around, and then they seem to who's our guy? Wallace. I got Chris Roland Wallace. And so I think he started getting some playing time because he's more of a nickel slot type of corner as opposed to Josh Williams or maybe Nazi. I got to get this. Nazi. I keep saying Nazi. Not Najee Johnson. Naze. But I don't think they trust, I don't think they like those guys necessarily playing the slot. And so with McDuffie chasing Ayuk all over the field, I think they're bringing that guy in to play the slot. So they got some pieces here. With as good as they are off the scrap heap, I can't imagine they're trading for any type of big name guy. Like maybe another type of guy that's on a practice squad or like a 7th-round pick for someone of somebody they just like. But they're so good at picking up these guys off the scrap heap that we just have to trust them at this point.
I mean, honestly, this is where, like, at the beginning of the season, when we were prepping for Chiefs season, I was tweeting about and talking about I really wanted Stephon Gilmore. I thought that they needed to add a veteran presence in this room, and Stephon Gilmore is a starting corner for the, I believe, number 1 defense in the NFL, the Minnesota Vikings. And so I see that, and I feel a little bit vindicated. But, you know, it seems like just that depth, it's not really there. But I say that knowing that Joshua Williams has played in all these Super Bowls. Like, I mean, I don't know how I feel about it. It's not my favorite situation that the Chiefs have found themselves in, despite all of these other injuries that they've been going through. This one really, I don't know.
Yeah, I've been debating dropping like a hot take is losing Jaylen Watson a bigger loss than losing Rashee Rice? Because losing Rashee Rice, obviously you have Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, everybody to help cover that up. Like they have the dogs to help cover that one up. Whereas Jaylen Watson, they don't have, you have Spagnuolo, obviously, but so much of Spagnuolo's scheme is putting trust in these corners to, on the back end, doing all these different types of blitzes and stuff. You need to have the trust in the corners, which I think they did, in McDuffie. And I think they were, I don't know if they had it beginning of the season for Jaylen Watson, but I think through 6 games they did because he's been playing so well. And so you really started to see Spags get into his bags this game. A lot of different exotic looks, confusing Purdy with different stuff. You saw Warthog covering Juicecheck out of the backfield. I saw Felix covering Kittle for a snap that was actually the interception that went to Roland Wallace. I thought you saw some gnarly brackets and some nifty shifts from cover 1 to cover 2. Lots of fun stuff from the nerds this week on what Spagnuolo was doing. But yeah, it's going to be a big loss. I mean, does he have the trust in these other guys? I think you're going to see a rotation between those 4 guys for now until they can figure out what they got. Going back to your earlier point, getting interceptions, man, 2 of them were just like bad Brock Purdy throws. I thought it was weird that one, so the one that Roland Wallace caught, you figured like it was a wrong route or miscommunication or something, but it was really weird to hear Kyle Shanahan just say it was a bad throw because, man, he missed him by like 5 yards. That wasn't just a bad throw. That was a horrible throw.
So a couple things in there. Have you heard these, I don't know, whisper? People aren't even whispering, but they're saying that like Shanahan like dressed down Purdy for 5 straight minutes in the locker room, like just yelling at him, and people were like looking through the window or something, and it's just Shanahan just yelling at Purdy, or maybe some people thought, oh well, he's just talking to him, but it seemed like he was. I mean, the what I have heard is people painting it in a negative light, but sometimes that's just kind of how it works. I don't know.
I saw a tweet, but I thought I just said like talking to him for 5 minutes, but then people were also kind of saying it was weird. I didn't see anyone saying like it was a dressing down or yelling, but it'd be kind of weird.
I mean, open to interpretation, right? But he seemed like he wasn't thrilled with the performance from him. I mean, picks, right?
I wanted to highlight the Justin Reid play though, because playmaking is something we've been asking for from the secondary, going back to last year. It's just not a lot of interceptions from the defense, as well as they've played as a unit. And as much as they get after the quarterback and all these different things, they don't really have the playmakers, especially in the back end. But that play from Justin Reid, that was a playmaking type play. Just to come up from like a deep safety role. He said he saw like George was getting the pressure, so he was able to drive on the route that he saw Purdy looking at. And that was like a type of play. That was a playmaking type of play that we have rarely seen from this Chiefs secondary. So I was very happy to see that one. The other 2, I think, were just bad throws, which, is probably 2/3 of the interceptions in the NFL these days. But so I don't put too much stock into those, but that type of play from Justin Reid, I thought that was really important to see.
Honestly, I thought a really great day from the safeties all around. All 3 of them got a pick. When I say all 3, I mean Justin Reid getting a pick. The Rook, Jaden Hicks, getting an interception in his, first 25 defensive snaps. Trent McDuffie still counting the days. Not getting an interception.
It's not going to happen anytime soon. Who's going to throw at Trey McDuffie with these other young guys out here? He's not going to see any targets. Like, it's hard to get an interception if you're not getting targeted.
And that this may be a situation where, and like, I don't know, this sounds crazy, but I think that there is a world where Jaylen Watson just kind of gets absorbed in the aggregate, and as they bring a Jaden Hicks along, as they maybe insert some Joshua Williams back into the lineup, as they use a Chamari Connor, whatever, like they can just do a bunch of weird stuff. That's what Spags is about, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be, all right, who's the next cornerback that plays every one of Jaylen Watson snaps? But the third pick of the day is Brian Cook, not an interception, but he did pick a fight with Trent Williams. And that was nice. You know, all three got three different safeties with a pick on the day. I enjoyed that. One of the other things you were talking about, all the different looks, the really creative things that Spags was doing. How about Felix at nose tackle? How about Felix just freaking dominating against the run? A guy that we thought if anything this year was like a situational speed finesse pass rusher. And this dude is getting after it in the run game. Felix is quite literally, in my estimation, over the last few weeks, what I've seen from him, especially because he's getting these extra snaps with Dana out, Felix is good against the run. He is. He's good against the run. And it just doesn't seem like that was something anybody was expecting. He's good against the run. He needs to figure out the pass rush part of things. And that's really how they make their money. But boy, he's certainly helping this team continue to shut down running games.
Yeah, it is funny because you kind of thought he was like a one-trick pony, which would be like a speed rusher off the end, and that's like the one thing that we're not seeing. But yeah, I wanted to do some updates to. We did the grades last week. I had a bunch of people tweeting me about the grades. I want to do Professor Dirk's Pop Quizness and kind of give. We're gonna kind of maybe try to do this every week, or maybe never do it again after this week. Who knows? But yeah, we're gonna do some grade up and grade down from the grades I handed out last week. So the grade ups, Felix, who you talked about, I thought one of the best games he's ever played. I want to see more snaps from Felix. He's a first round talent, and we've got a dearth at that position right now. Give him some snaps. Like start bringing him along more. I want to see more Felix. Yeah, I thought he held up very, very well against a great offensive line, against a good running game. Like he's not a liability in the running game by any means. So throw him out there. Get him some snaps. George Karlaftis, his partner in crime on defensive end. I thought it was by far his best game of the season. I gave him a middling grade last week. But he was wreaking havoc. A few of probably his three of his best pass rushes on the season all in this game. So George's grade would be going up. On the offensive side, Noah Gray, I gave him a middling grade just because I wanted to see more. Well, how about a career high receiving yards in the first quarter? Like his career high for the whole game, he had it in the first quarter. I think it was 57, I want to say. But Noah Gray, he's a bona fide weapon. Use him more. His grade wasn't like a reflection of him necessarily, but I just wanted to see more Noah Gray, and we finally got that. And the last guy, McCole Hardman, he gets a grade up. Actually making some plays out there. I bumped him a little bit last week just for not fucking up. He actually supplied some plays this week, so that was good to see. So those are the grade up guys. Any thoughts on those before I get to the grade down guys?
All day Noah Gray, baby. All day Noah Gray. I think he's a good football player. The Chiefs obviously thought so. They gave him a much more sizable extension than I think any of us imagined. And he has started to fill in pretty nicely, trying to pick up some of that volume, I guess, that isn't quite going to Kelsey. He will probably have his best year or his best season as a pro in terms of, the actual numbers, I guess, are concerned. The McCole Hardman experience, super interesting to probably pretty much every time he touched the ball. I mean, we all feel that nervousness. He's just given the ball away in so many different, ways. But God, when he plays against the Niners, it's like he's one of the best football players on the planet. And I mean, he has a great run. He has a great catch. He's got a great punt return. I think one of the longest punt returns of his career, in fact. I mean, just a really great day from him and totally unexpected. Like he is like in the same spot on the roster for me as Sky Moore, but that game, I mean, couldn't have been more opposite. McCole really did some of his best work, and I don't know if there's more to come or if those are all of the good plays that McCole has in him for the 2024 season. We will see.
He's a specific game plan for the 49ers type of receiver, and I'm cool with that. I'm good. If we play him in another Super Bowl, we will have him ready. Some great down guys. You gotta have some down with some ups. Our guy Nazi Johnson. I was kind of said that we were, he hasn't gotten beaten yet, but we were kind of waiting for it to happen, like we thought it was coming. We saw, maybe just once in this game, but it wasn't, it wasn't a great rep. So he gets a slight tick down. Travis Kelce, I was defending him. His production was, not as bad as I thought people thought, but, only 17 yards receiving today. Did have some good blocking, so I hesitated to put him on here, but I had to pick a few guys. Just a slight tick down for Kelce. Worthy, who we've kind of talked about. I thought you saw the, holes in his game, I guess, for lack of a better word. That route where he gets bodied off the line and then ends up falling down, at least to an interception. Maybe not his fault. Maybe they're just kind of playing with some things, but, I gave him a really good grade because the stats looked good. So a little bit of a downgrade there. And then Sky Moore, I got to eat some crow here. George Pickens, big old game for George Pickens. I gave Sky Moore a grade up because of George Pickens. I thought he was terrible. George Pickens' numbers better than I thought, and he had a good game this week. So, I gotta take the L on that one. Maybe my grade goes down on that one, but also Sky Moore's drops to a solid F. I actually, man, when he got a pass, I threw up both arms. Sky Moore! I was so pumped. And then, you get the replay, and it's obviously, there's the ball clearly on the ground. He couldn't even fake it well. Couldn't even fake the catch ball. Just sell it a little more. Get the offense of the house to hurry up. Like, do something. Give me something, Sky. Anything.
Sky Moore. My goodness, man. Did you have the tackles in there at all? I mean, it's a good pass rush, obviously. I had written down the joke that the best protection the offensive line had all game was the backups blocking the sun. I don't know if you saw that on the broadcast. I don't know if I thought it was funny or if I thought it was true. I just kind of felt like Mahomes was kind of under duress in this game. It's understandable with the quality of pass rush that they're going against, and just kind of the tackle situation for the Chiefs. But anything to worry about going forward there?
Well, I mean, I thought they were bad in the first quarter. I mean, Bosa beat both guys in the first quarter, but I think after that, I thought they kind of figured it out, and I don't remember pressure being a huge problem. Maybe they shifted and started giving them some help, but Bosa's going to cause problems. He always does against the Chiefs. So I thought they did fine. They got to a bad start, so I think there was some talk about it. But overall in the game, I didn't think they were too bad.
So Chiefs Niners was on Sunday, October 20th. And they scored 28 points, which is the highest point total that they had since November 26th of last year. They really only scored over 28 twice all last season. So it's not necessarily like, huge surprise that the Chiefs aren't scoring that much. They're 13th in points per game offensively. And they've had like 28, 27, 27, 26. They've had a few of those scores in there. So they're really not doing too bad, but 4 offensive touchdowns. I dig that. The most points since was something that I was thinking about because I was like, God, man, 28, like this team's been struggling to score.
And we haven't talked enough about Mahomes running over Mustafa. One of my favorite Mahomes plays ever. I was sick, could barely get off the couch, and I leapt off the couch for that one. Put the stamp on the game. It was still very much in doubt at that point. But man, to run over someone like that, it kind of reminded me of the Air Mahomes. Remember that one? I think it was against the Bengals. It actually came in a loss, but one of my favorite plays because he just like jumps over, and it's just like an awesome looking picture because he's just holding the ball just over the goal line, floating like that. But to have a play like that, he went full Reggie Bush against Fresno State, if you remember that, like going to the sideline and kind of cutting back. He had a run similar like that, and Earl Campbell in the same game. And so anytime, the best thrower of the football can remind you of both Reggie Bush and Earl Campbell in a football game, that's pretty special and deserves a shout out. One of my favorite Mahomes plays ever, trucking over that dude. Just, oh man, just the pictures that came out after, everything about it. I loved it. I was eating that up.
Yeah, and the fact that it finished off the drive after he had the longest run of his career, and the style of that run versus the style of this kind of power run, at the goal line, and ultimately throwing the shoulder into Malik Mustafa, getting that payback. I mean, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I wanna drop something in your lap real quick before we go. I've been thinking a little bit about the Chiefs' fortune. I mean, Dirk, like, we started this podcast a few months before the Chiefs had the first overall pick in a draft that did not have any quarterbacks worth taking. The Chiefs finally bottom out, and they, with the first overall pick in like this real murky quarterback draft class that, hey, shout out to Geno. I'm glad you figured it out, at this stage in your career. But
dare you?
How dare you? I don't know. The Chiefs have been the end of a lot of bad jokes throughout the years about their luck, about the bad luck that this team has had. And I see you throwing your neck out there for Mike Glennon, of course.
Yeah.
Glennon's got 3 touchdowns at halftime. Tell the bride. One of my favorite Dirkness memories. But man, I mean, today, and that was back in 2013, right? That the Chiefs get the number 1 overall pick and they have to take an offensive lineman because there's not a quarterback and they clearly need one. But here we are 11 years later, 3 Super Bowls richer, and the Chiefs are decimated with injuries. Truly, they're decimated with injuries. And they're 6-0. And they're not playing great football, and they're 6-0. And people are still talking about potentially an undefeated season. And they're not even close to, I think, as talented as some of the last, few seasons when they've lost plenty of games. The fortune of this team has really turned over during the Andy Reid era, and right now, where they're at is an extremely special time. Playing the Raiders on Sunday, I kind of like the good fortune Las Vegas connection a little bit. Shout out to our boy Gabriel, who's going to be at the game. Can't believe anybody can afford a ticket to these Chiefs Raiders games in Las Vegas. Good Lord. Like a big portion of my paycheck. Way too big a portion of my paycheck.
Gabriel, our Colombian brethren, of course. Also, a reminder that this is playing the Raiders for the first time since, they brought out the Kermit doll. And that was what's the quote? It will be handled when it will be handled. Is that the quote?
It's also the first time that they've played this team since they got absolutely destroyed on Christmas Day. I mean, like, this is one that the Chiefs have circled. They are in Vegas. They largely own that stadium. They won in Vegas last year. That loss that they had on Christmas Day was at Arrowhead. And I'm telling you, I mean, yeah, as pointed out by our ace producer, Nick, he says the Chiefs' last loss was to the Raiders.
Wouldn't that be perfectly Chiefs to lose this one? And it's just bookends, 12 wins in a row with a Super Bowl in there with losses to this terrible Raiders team.
Well, it's going to be a combination of Gardner Minshew and maybe Desmond Ridder. Like, I mean, it's woof. All right. This Raiders team has very little to bring to the table on offense. Playing against this Chiefs defense, I mean, I'm literally thinking, remember the Titans, I don't want them to gain another yard. Like, I just don't imagine the Raiders have anything that can match up with this Chiefs defense. I hope it's an absolute bloodbath, and our buddy Gabriel has an amazing time out there because the Raiders deserve it. Sorry, you guys suck. You stink, and I hope you lose by a lot. Dirk, don't forget the Carson Wentz play, okay? I just want to wait.
I mentioned it.
Wentz got on the field. Is it a crucial situation and down in the red zone? I'm telling you, bud, we're just a couple steps away from Carson Wentz quarterback sneaks. We're getting there. Just everybody join the bandwagon. We got to peer pressure this team. Hey, you guys trust Carson Wentz to be on the field. You have shown it. You showed us you trust him. All you got to do is snap it to him and let him fall forward for some of these first downs. Come on.
Do you think he was at a 3-point stance on purpose? Do you think he was supposed to be, like, for deception's sake? Or did he err and get in a 3-point stance and then take the shotgun snap from a 3-point stance? Because that's pretty weird.
Well, honestly, like, you can really tell that our colleague, Haley Lewis, that she grew up with her dad as a football coach because she instantly identified, the single wing, huh? And I'm like, so that's what they call it. Thanks, Haley, for filling in the gaps on my football knowledge. I mean, Andy's doing all sorts of that weird stuff. It looked pretty similar to some of what they've been doing, except for Mahomes has been standing up on a lot of these plays. But yeah, I mean, it's the ball ends up in Wentz's hands. He, has to do the pitch on his tees. Like they trust Carson Wentz. And so I think we're getting close, guys. Just pressure him. Everybody on Andy's number, call him up. Andy, hey, Carson, you look real good. Maybe you should
keep doing it. Keep doing it. Andy, don't listen to these people on Twitter. Don't listen to them. Keep doing weird shit. Keep it silly. I like the silly Chiefs.
I absolutely love the silly Chiefs as well. Folks, I'm Ryan Scott Hall. He's his Dirkness. This has been another episode of Amateur.
Briefs.